to this week's live Monday Music Motivation. Today, I wanted to actually sort of unpack a conversation that I had in the comments of one of my other videos that was really interesting and I think insightful, and I think will be really helpful for you. Another thing that I'm going to do, at least today and probably more frequently, maybe every week, is I want to give you a little actionable challenge, something that you can do in your practice this week that will help move you forward, help you to get more results, more progress in your clarinet and music journey, because that's what we're here to do, right? Motivate you to go do the practice and get better, because we all want to be better, right? So, the first thing, unpacking the conversation that I had, it was about expectations, and it was on the little video series that I've been doing that is sort of what I wish I knew at different stages of my personal clarinet journey. And somebody commented, I think it was on the first year video, about not expecting to sound good and sort of accepting the fact that you aren't going to sound as good as you want when you're starting out, which I totally agree with and I think is a great point. It's really important, where we all start playing the clarinet because we were inspired by something. Maybe it was in fifth grade or fourth grade, you knew clarinet playing, somebody in your family played clarinet. That was sort of what did it for me. Maybe on that sort of instrument tryout day, you tried the clarinet and it sounded the best out of all of the instruments. No matter how it is, or if you're an adult who has always loved the clarinet and thought, you know what, I want to play like Benny Goodman or Artie Shaw or Stanley Drucker or any of these great clarinet players who you've listened to before. No matter how we start going in our clarinet journey, at some point we have this imagination of what playing the clarinet is like and what a great clarinet player sounds like. And we start to think like, oh, that's what I want. That's why I'm playing this instrument. And then you start building expectations of that's how you should sound and that's how you should be able to play. And that can be really very frustrating when you're first learning and you're like, oh, why don't I sound like Benny Goodman yet? And of course, logically, we accept that it's going to take some time before we can play like Benny Goodman. But I think it's important to really acknowledge that and really consciously say, like, yes, I want to sound this good, but I need to accept and be okay with the fact that I'm not going to sound that way for a long time. But that's where we can sort of get in our own way in another way of being okay with putting it off. And that's what I want to talk about is finding that fine line, finding that balance between I want to sound really great and I want to sound great now versus and sometimes that can get frustrating when you're like, I want to sound like Benny Goodman now, but I don't, so I'm frustrated. I don't like playing this instrument. I don't sound good anyways. I'm never going to sound like Benny Goodman, so I should just give it up. That's one negative extreme. But the other negative extreme is I'm never going to sound like Benny Goodman, so I'm just going to like play and I'm bad at the clarinet. I'm just a beginner. I'm never going to sound good, so who cares what I sound like? I'm just going to sort of play and see what happens. That's also limiting your growth. In one way, if you have too high of expectations, then you get frustrated and give up. There's like no point in trying. On the other hand, if you have sort of too low of expectations and never feel like you need to be moving forward and getting better, then you never move forward and get better and you just sort of stagnate wherever you are. So we need to find that line where our expectations are motivating us and inspiring us and giving us a clear target to aim for, but not frustrating or disappointing. So a way that I think makes good sense on this is to have really high expectations. Say, I do want to sound like Benny Goodman or Martin Frost or Anthony McGill or Sabina Meyer or whoever your favorite clarinetist is. Like, I want to sound like them and play like them, but I accept that it's going to take work to get there, and that I'm not going to sound like them right now or maybe for a while. And I think there's a really important thing that we can do. That's my little action challenge for you for this week that can help sort of find that line or bridge that gap and make us feel better about it. And what that is to have extremely high expectations on very simple music. So let's take the Martin Frost example, because that's sort of my personal expectation of how I want to play and what I want to sound like. So Martin Frost can do things better than me and plays this insanely complicated music really well, really comfortably, really confidently. If I tried to play that music, I mean, I've been playing long enough now that if I really took the time and worked on it and learned it, I could probably get pretty close. But in my first, second, third, fifth, eighth year of playing, I didn't have a chance. So I would maybe try that complicated music that Martin Frost plays, expecting it to sound like Martin Frost playing it, and I would just give up and quit and say, this is too hard, this is impossible, I can never do this. But if instead I take something super simple, like long tones, like a scale, and I say, I'm gonna play this scale slowly, cleanly, clearly, as if Martin Frost was playing it, that's something that's achievable. So what really separates the professionals is their familiarity, their experience, their creativity, all of these things that allows them to execute at a very high level, very complicated, advanced music. But if we can lower the complexity of the music, then we can raise our expectations to that of actually sounding really good. And I think that's really important, because if I can do my long tones sounding as good as Martin Frost or whatever professional, then maybe I could also do my scales that good. And then if I can do my scales that good, maybe I could also do a Rose etude or a Haidt melodious and progressive studies etude. Maybe I could do simple music that good. And if I can do simple music that good, maybe I can do slightly more complicated music. And you can see how that builds a really clear path and a really clear bridge to eventually sounding like you want. So it's always finding that balance of accepting that you're not going to be able to play exactly like XYZ, whoever you want to play like, or it doesn't even have to be a specific person. It can just be like that imagination of, this is how I want to play the clarinet. You have to accept that maybe you can't do that right away. Maybe not in your first year, your third year, your seventh year. Maybe it's going to take a few years to get there. But at the same time, every single time you practice, be aiming for that, especially on the simple stuff. So that's sort of the moral for today. And the action that I have for you is this week, I want you to do a simple exercise as good as you possibly can. Either long tones or just a simple scale, like a 1-octave scale even. Keep the music, the simpler, the better. And I want you to raise your expectations to, if this was Martin Frost, Sabina Meyer, whoever you want to pick, if this was them playing that scale, how would they sound? And work to sound that way yourself. Because I think it's possible. I think pretty much all of us could play a 1-octave scale pretty darn well and make it sound really, really good, almost at a professional level, maybe even at a professional level. And if you can do that, then you can take the next step and the next step and the next step, and next thing you know, you'll be sounding really great. So that's my little motivation and inspiration for you today. I also have another important action that's every single Monday music motivation we have to do, which is to fill out our practice template for the week. You can go to the link in the description, quickstartclarinet.com/get-started to check that out, or you can recreate it for yourself. It's very simple. I don't think I'm holding it straight. The date for the week, your reflection of how things are going for you, your goal for this week, and then your plan for when you're going to practice it. And again, you can get way more in depth with this. You could fill out this template every day for your practice. This is just the sort of very basic, very rough sketch to sort of give you an idea of how to do this. And then you can customize it on your own. all that really matters is that you're getting honesty with where you're at, clarity with where you want to go, and then you're scheduling the time and making the plan to take those steps. Just like we get our long tone sounding professionals, then our scales, then our easy pieces, then our harder pieces. It's the same path here where I know this is what I'm doing this week, this is what I want to achieve this week, and these are the steps that I'm going to take there. Then the best thing to do is take those steps, put them in your calendar, put them in your schedule, your planner, set reminders, do whatever you need to do to actually make it happen. And if you keep doing that week over week, you're going to be a better player for it. So I hope that this has been helpful. Go fill that out right now. Put in there the simple exercise you're going to do with the highest expectations you can have while accepting that you're not going to play quite as good as your highest expectations on everything, but just on this one simple exercise for the week. Give it a try. Happy practicing this week. I hope you all have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week in the next live Monday music motivation. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.